Hello, hello! It's been quite a while since I actually made a video, and a really long time since I've actually done a hardware review on this channel, so I thought I would give you a quick look at this device that I picked up before I went on vacation. It is the Augen Gentouch78. It's a 7-inch internet tablet that is using the Android 2.1 operating system. It's made by a company called Augen US, and it might be a short-lived product, though I think it is going to continue to be produced. Just the newer versions are going to have to come without all of the Google features that are specific to the Android operating system, such as the marketplace, the navigation, things of that nature. The ones that are already on the market, like the one you see here, will continue to keep that in place, but it's quite possible they won't be getting any sort of software updates. But basically, I thought I'd give you a quick look at what came with it. If you want to see all of the items that came in the packaging, I did make a video about this on my second channel, youtube.com/twiltalks. I'll have a link to the video as an annotation and in the doobly-doo below if you want to check that out. But basically, we've got a small user guide here with the word tablet spelled wrong on it, but just some general information on it there. We've got a power plug for it, a USB cable, and this nifty little item. It was actually a case that it came with. It was a little faux leather bound case. I'm not even sure what to call these little holders to hold the device in it. A very neat, nifty little item. But let's just go ahead and jump into the device itself. And I figured I'd go ahead and tell you a little bit about the design of it while I'm starting it up. And just to let you know, we will have plenty of time because this takes quite a little while to get going. There we go. We're starting up now. Gentouch78. Okay, so the front of the device, as you can see, it's got a glossy finish. It's not got any buttons on it. Very simple looking, very nice to look at. That said, it has no buttons on the front, which means if you're looking at this from a phone standpoint, you know, so any sort of other tablet device, you've got nothing to touch here, so you have no sort of controls. All of those controls are actually on the back of the device in the upper left-hand corner. Now, from the left to right, we've got the back button, we've got the home button, we've got the search button, and we've got a menu button. Now those are all well and good, but it would have been really nice if they'd been down one of the sides, if they'd been across the bottom, anything like that, as you would expect out of a normal Android-based phone. That said, they're right here, so it's not really that difficult to figure out where they are, but we'll get to some of that later. So this is actually not the default screen that comes with the Augen Gentouch. After I performed an update on it, it took on this new Android logo. I'm guessing that has something to do with the latest update. But there we go. Not terribly long. Honestly, it took probably a minute to get started up. The problem with this is it takes that long to start up every single time. It's not just, oh look, it's the first time for the device, so it's going to take a long time to start. No, it's every single time. Now the problem with that is when you couple that with the battery life, which is kind of mediocre, you're going to end up turning it off a lot. And so when you turn it off, it turns off very quickly, but it does take quite a while to get going. Now I can just hit the button and close the screen, which will help the battery life be a little bit longer, but it's a few hours as opposed to like a whole day that I would get out of my phone. And of course when I turn it back on, there we go, we've got this lock screen on it, which is kind of interesting. This was not an out-of-the-box feature on the device, but it's something that is kind of interesting to see. The other features on the outside that I didn't get to finish talking about, we've got this little speaker, which is kind of mediocre, does not put out a whole lot of sound, and it's kind of odd that it's in that position in the back as opposed to being like a bar across the bottom or anything like that. But, you know, it does get the job done. We've got this stylus that pulls out. I mentioned in the other video that I thought it was capacitive screen, but it's actually a resistive screen with a stylus. The stylus works decently. We'll get to that in a minute. And here on the side is where all the action actually happens. We've got the power connector, we've got the power button, we've got the mini USB plug, the 2.5mm headphone jack, and the micro SD port that I have not had the chance to test because I don't have any micro USB cards. Other side is flat, flush, does not have anything to it. As you can tell, this is a decently slim device. If I put it next to my iPhone, it's actually just a little bit thicker, not too bad, considering it's a 7-inch internet tablet. So yeah, out of the box, this device was not particularly impressive. I hate to say that, but that's the truth. Basically, it was very, very slow to respond. It took forever to do pretty much anything. The screen was not very responsive. The Android marketplace just didn't work. Now there were a couple of updates that did help fix a couple of things. Like I said, this touchscreen is a little bit better than it was. It is still a little bit slow. If I touch on certain things, like the app list there, it pulls out, but it does pull out kind of slowly. Part of that has to do with the speed of the device itself. If I were to use the stylus that's included, it doesn't make that much of a difference, but it does help a little as far as how hard I have to press. The other item that was really taken care of was the marketplace. If I go ahead and click on that app, now that I've got my wireless connected, there we go, we're connected to the Android app market, and I can come in here and go into just different apps, and there we go, we're loading up the list of apps, and we've got a whole list of things that we can install. I have installed quite a few different applications on here, and they work pretty well, pretty respectably. If I go into this Twitter app, for example, it will work, but that will actually lead us to the one big problem I see with, one of the big problems I see with this, not just one. You'll notice there it did not turn. You know, I've got it standing straight up. The app is still sideways, and I can turn it to compensate, and it's kind of like holding a 7-inch phone at that point. That's okay, but I would prefer to be able to turn it to the landscape mode just like I would normally hold the tablet. Not a deal breaker of a feature, but it is a little bit harder to type with it this way because you have much less screen real estate. But still, it's usable. It would just be very nice if it had come with an accelerometer. But for $170, $180, it's really hard to fault that. In addition, obviously there's no camera. That's not a big deal on a $170 device. I wouldn't expect there to be a front-facing or a rear-facing camera. But let's go ahead and get to the overalls. The screen, as you can see, maybe the screen is decent. It's not terribly sharp, but it's not blurry or anything. It's not ultra crisp or anything like you'd see on one of the brand new Android-based phones or on the new iPhone. However, I took it out in sunlight, and you could not see a thing on the screen in any sort of sunlight, so not terribly great. It doesn't have any of the wonderful features the new cell phones have where they allow you to actually use it in direct sunlight. In addition, being that the touchscreen part of it is a part of the screen, the touchscreen is just not as responsive as I would like to see out of a touchscreen. A part of that is the processor. It's an 800 megahertz processor, but it's supposedly downclocked to 600 megahertz. And another part of it is just the screen itself. Now, an update did help fix that a little bit. Like I said, the stylus does work a little bit better, but there are even some little calibration type issues that I've worked out by using the calibration app, but have not been completely resolved. The top row on the keyboard is very difficult to use because it's almost as if the app is overlaying it just a little bit. I don't know if that has something to do with the screen or not. Now, one of the updates did fix the inability to change the sound from anywhere but within the menus. There are two little up and down icons here. You can't really see them very well on the screen, but if I hit up, there we go. It's actually changing the device volume. Let's see when it decides to respond. There we go. And it works okay. In addition, this does play media very nicely. If I go into the file explorer that I've got on here, you have to actually go in, if you've got it stored locally on the device, you go hit the / to go up to the root directory, hit the NAND, N-A-N-D, to go into the, I don't know exactly what NAND stands for, I should know this, but it takes it into the directory where all of the files are stored if you put them on through USB. And here are just some files that I've loaded onto it. My son has a Mickey Mouse DVD that we made a copy of before we went on vacation, and if I go ahead and open that, you say open as video, and I'm not going to let it play or anything, but there we go. We've got these controls along the bottom. We've got an up and down volume, a slider control, and it does play very, very nicely. I was able to let him watch it on the plane to the Bahamas and back. Well, actually to Florida and back is where we went, and it played very nicely. The sound was decent, and actually where the cover comes in, if you put the cover on top of it and leave it kind of folded up like this, it does help to amplify the sound and bring it toward you since the speaker is right on the back. So we'll hit the home button just to go back home. Let's see if there's anything else. The battery life is not the best. Honestly, it's a small device. It's got a mediocre battery life. I wouldn't expect it to last forever and a day, but I have not charged this in, I don't know, since we were on vacation. And my son watched about a 20-minute video on it, and we're at 60% battery life. That's with me sitting here holding it, using it a little bit. So, I mean, it's, I would say that it would probably make it through about an hour and a half if you were watching video, maybe a few hours if you were just browsing the web or doing very minimal wireless type access. Other than that, you know, it's about the same as a normal sized laptop, not a tablet like it should be. So if it's just on standby, I'd say it would probably get, I don't know, 5 or 6 hours standby. But that's standby with nothing actually going. And that's actually one of the another odd little things about it. If you put it in standby like that for any amount of time, and you bring it back up, you see we're back at the screen, but it doesn't respond now. Then it flashes off again. And if I hit the button again, maybe it comes up, keep hitting it, there we go to that lock screen. That's just one of those other little quirky bugs that I see with it. Realistically, my opinion of this device is very mixed. Almost forgot to mention, since we're about to close up here, 2.5mm headphone jack, not really handy or useful for most people. Just like Apple had the same kind of problem, this Augen company is offering an adapter to all the people that have purchased these already. So if you want to keep this device, it's got a 2.5mm to 3.5mm headphone jack adapter. Those are notorious for breaking, and I don't really recommend using that. If you're going to use it, just use it with the speaker and let that be. I've noticed a lot of people have said they've had problems with the speaker itself because it tends to I don't know, it squawks a lot instead of being used normally. I experienced that, and rebooting the device does take care of it, although like I mentioned before, rebooting the device takes quite a bit of time. So my opinion on this overall, just to sum up, not a big fan of it. As far as using it as a media device, 2 gigs of built-in storage, 1.5 gigs that's actually usable. That's not bad, and the ability to take a 16 gig, I think 16 gig flash card, SD card, that's actually, that's a pretty decent amount of storage that you could have in this device, but the battery is not going to support that. So if you put 16 gigs of movies on there, you're not going to be able to sit there and watch all of that. You're not even going to be able to watch 4 or 5 hours of it. You're going to get maybe a couple of hours out of it at the very best if you disable all of the services. Now, while my son was watching the movie on the plane, I forgot to mention I did disable everything with this little Android widget across the bottom. I had even Wi-Fi turned off. So it's not like I was sitting there on Wi-Fi with all of the applications trying to sync. No, it had nothing running. It actually had the brightness turned down a little bit, and it still used like 40% of the battery life for 20 minutes of video. Yeah, my opinion of this, I would not recommend buying it. It is better than I'd heard of it. You know, after all of the updates and everything, it's better than I expected, but I still don't think it's a $180 device. It was $170 at Kmart with $10 in tax where I live. It was supposed to be $150 when it actually came out, but it was not available at the time, so I wasn't able to get a rain check or anything. That means that instead of paying $160 for it, I paid $180, and I'm going to get my $180 back when I take it to Kmart tomorrow, so that's the last you're going to see of this device. Not a great device, you know, but it is a good start for Augen, and they do have the price point right. $150 to $180 for a device, very decent. It's just that the specs of it are kind of mediocre, and the performance really shows for that. So that's all for the Augen Gentouch78. Thank you guys for watching, thank you for supporting me, and I will see you next time.